Most people assume that if you build a great product, customers will come, and that's not at all the case, especially these days where with Cursor and with Surf, you can build products so fast without distribution, without understanding how to move people to take action. It's really impossible for companies to succeed.
Let's hear about maybe a favorite campaign of yours, a playbook that really worked well.
One brilliant, brave campaign that got everybody talking, which is Artisan, putting these ads everywhere saying, do not hire human. And you'd think, well, that's completely stupid because it's going to get people hating on them. The super risky campaign, they are willing to get the hate because now everybody talks about them just from taking that risk. Huge respect for them, even though I know that they're promoting the wrong things. It's like a bold risk.
You've invested a lot of time on your personal brand. A lot of people, I think there is a wave for all founders to focus a lot on it.
I do want to caution, I don't think that all about founders should post.
So thank you so much for joining us, Alina. Welcome to EdBound with Kenna. I'm really honored to have you here with us today.
Pleasure is all mine.
Wonderful. Now, I know you built a company to almost $1 billion valuation in the GTM space. There are so many facets to your personality beyond the company that you're building as well. You're a mother, you're a leader, and I want to learn a lot about how and what are you doing right now to make sure that people do the GTM or use your platform in the right way.
Been around for a while. We've started in 2016, and I've seen so many ups and downs through this industry that what's happening right now in the AI space and like the noise that we all see in our feeds and all of that excites me. I know it's kind of strange to say that for a tech founder, because you'd say, well, there's more competition, there's more noise. How do you break through that? And the reason why that instead of having it terrify me excites me is because it forces you to not use playbooks that fade in the background. It forces you to be able to be creative at a level where you basically have to defeat LLMs, and that keeps us all on our toes and makes us better.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I know that you don't call yourself the CEO now. You call yourself GEO, which is Guide Executive Officer. So it's really interesting, and it's kind of a different type of leadership role, and I know you have a distinct style. So, would you like to maybe just talk about why GTM as a space? I mean, why? I know you've had a fantastic career. I mean, you've held positions in multiple organizations. But why GTM is the space to build this company in?
So first, the reason why I came up with this term at some point is because I hate that there's this concept that there's a chief at the top and the chief knows everything and makes all decisions. And that's not how we operate. I'm there to guide my team. But back to the GTM space, I think GTM teams are the blood of companies. Most people assume that if you build a great product, customers will come, and that's not at all the case. And especially these days where with Cursor and with Surf, you can build products so fast. That's like just a small piece of it without distribution, without understanding how to move people to take action. It's really impossible for companies to succeed. And it's such a complex and beautiful process that I just love that my mind can take that complex puzzle and try to solve it. I think that our platform barely scratches the surface on the type of things that can be done, but it's a very beautiful, complex puzzle to solve.
Wow. So beautifully put. I mean, you're doing it because you have this unique ability and you love the space. I mean, it's so different from the usual answer that I get from people, but I love it because I believe you're doing a tremendous job there. I know that the revenues have grown. I mean, and we have this data, whatever is publicly available, have grown beyond $50 million. You help people run the entire marketing funnel to the sales booking conversions, right? How does that work? Like, I just want a quick introduction for people to understand better how your product kind of would help a specific user.
We started with a simple workflow. When somebody comes on your website, on your inbound form, they usually fill out that form and they get a thank you. Somebody will contact you soon in the B2B space. And what happens is that more than 60% or 50% of those leads that come through, they never get in touch with sales either because they forget about it. They go to a competitor. They're reached at the wrong time. they change their mind. And that's a shame because everybody that's qualified should be able to talk to sales immediately. So we solve for that problem at the beginning, which is like a simple JavaScript and making sure that we qualify them and then we take them to the right rep. And then from there, we started observing a lot more friction into the funnel in many other places. Like even if you click on a cadence from outbound, making sure that they immediately got in touch with the right account manager or the right CS or the right SDR or the right AE, and there's no friction from sales to customer success, from all these touch points that are in the customer journey can be quite important, especially when you're looking at improving all your conversion rates everywhere. And it's an efficiency game at scale. So we serve best companies that have like a complex sales process, that have more than 20 salespeople or so, that they have all sorts of touch points in the customer journey. Right now we're doing many things that I'm building right now with agentic workflows and AIs to make sure that not only that demand is converted, but the demand is also created. So that's the next chapter in our journey, which is something that I get a lot of joy out of.
I have so many questions around that. Let's begin with the ICP. Now, you specifically mentioned people with like companies with 20 sales agents or, SDRs and more. Is that something that you've just recently started doing? Because now you are at like a very good large scale. When you started, did you start with a particular niche? Like you said, we're going to solve this problem only in this specific sector with these type of audiences, or was that generic broad?
So I do think that the account segmentation and the ICP, being able to be very specific about it, is one of the most important things when going to market, because there's this mistake that many founders make where they just spray and pray and they create ads on Google for everybody, and they create every B2B company can now be my customer, or every B2B company that has salespeople is my customer. The process in which we refine our ICP has been evolving and continues to evolve. The way we look at it, and I have thousands of data points to do this refinement, is I look at the profile of my customers that stick with me for longer. So I look at lifetime value, and then I correlate that to my top of the funnel as well. So there are all sorts of characteristics. I can go to many characteristics that make for a great Chili Piper customer, but I keep refining it, and I look at making sure that my ARR and my NR grow, and I target the right kind of customers. Yeah,
that makes sense. When companies start, when they are in a space which could seemingly be a red ocean, and when you explained your product to me, I can understand the pushback that a lot of people might say that, I solved this with my CRM, Salesforce, multiple things. Now, I do see that there is a specific wedge that you have. So the question I have specifically there is has this been a product-led growth, or do you depend on a demo, or like, how does this funnel look like? Like, let's look at the total funnel of how do you acquire a customer and convert them.
So at the beginning, when we started, was completely very, very difficult for us because we had no competitors, and we had to educate the market a lot on what it is that we do and why is it important, especially like, why can't you just put like a Calendly link and solve for that, or in HubSpot, why don't you just like use the form and the capabilities in there? So I had to do a lot of education, and that took me a long time. It was never a PLG. And the reason why it was never PLG is because there's a team alignment that needs to happen for them to adopt it. So there has to be a JavaScript web page, which is the web developer. Then there's the marketing team that needs to agree on the qualification criteria with the sales team. And then there's the sales team who needs to be enabled to receive those meetings right away. Because, for instance, if they do a live call, then they need to set up their availabilities, and they need to understand that they might get a call from a customer inbound on their cell phone, etc. So whenever you have this kind of team enablement needing to happen, it's just more difficult with PLG. It's not a product per se problem. It's more of an enablement.
Yeah.
Certain enablement steps that need to happen. Now it's a lot easier because we're known, and we have competitors, and competitors are also educating the market. So my sales cycle is actually shorter now that I have competitors, which I love. I know it's kind of weird for a tech founder to say that. So yeah, that's a bit about my sales process.
I want to dial down a little bit into what you just explained. And I'm sorry if I'm going to get like too nosy about these questions, but let me just ask anyways. You mentioned that you had to educate the market, and I mean, like there was a lot of effort happening. So there are multiple questions questions that come to mind. One, how are you basically targeting the top of the funnel? And by educating, were you deploying one-to-many education methods, which can be Luma recorded videos, demo videos, and there could be tons of technology? Or were you getting on one-on-one calls and booking demos? So I'm just curious to kind of just peel open some layers here.
So the way I've been looking at it, and I still look at it, is that you have first the brand awareness. First, people have, when they hear Chili Pepper, oh, I heard about this company. What do they do again? So there's like this brand awareness kind of layer. And on the brand awareness, we've always done crazy things on social, continue to do crazy things on social. So there's that. Then on the product education front, we have done many things. So for instance, we go to conferences, we have like a booth, and we try to show people what they can do there. But that's not as effective as it is the one-on-one education that happens. So for instance, our SDR would take a recording, they would show how their current process looks on their inbound and how it's broken and how nobody's replying to them. And when you're faced with the reality of your website not acquiring the customers in the way that you could potentially acquire customer and double your inbound conversion rate, that's something that is a lot more impactful. So we imagine that you email the head of sales and you say, hey, I'm noticing that your website is broken. It doesn't go through your sales reps. Why do you do that? Like you hire this entire team and you let your leads kind of fall through the cracks. It makes no sense. So that's a lot more impactful.
That makes a lot of sense. So 2 more questions around the same thing. Events and SDRs, all of that's great. Now, my question there would be when these guys get the demo, and I think it sounds like a fantastic idea. I mean, you nail down a problem that they're facing and an improvement that could get them the revenue. When your guys kind of do the demo, I assume because there are multiple stakeholders, you'll have to do multiple demos and the account would take a certain while to convert. So what are the sizes, the average billing we're looking at for a 20 people team? If you don't mind me asking that question, because, it directly correlates with effort to success ratio. And a lot of initial stage founders who are kind of pre-series A are asking these questions all the time.
So I'm the technical co-founder at Chili Piper, and I have Nicola, who's my co-founder and also my husband. He's the one who's managing the sales team, and he's brilliant. He's like, I wouldn't start a company without him. I'm in awe of how he looks at this funnel and how he looks at our sales training and everything. So he's a lot more on top of these things than I am. I am obviously exposed to it, and I'm alongside him on all these things, but he's the genius behind that. I would say that in our case, especially these days, when we look at our sales process, we look a lot more at what we call a highly capable internal champion who is motivated and can push things through, and we enable them. It's very difficult because we get on a demo with someone who's like curious and interested, but they may not have the right training or the right experience on what it takes to move the organization to a consensus. So our sales team has become really good at identifying that champion inside that can actually make things happen. It's not like multiple demos. It's mostly understanding who can actually make that change happen in the company. And it's quite difficult because even though intellectually they might understand that it's the right thing for them, and they understand that they can improve their conversion rates, and they understand that they can get more pipeline and that they can be promoted, etc. There's still a lot of fear. And the reason why there's fear is because there's so many tools in the market. There's so many things that they could be purchasing. There's so many things that could go wrong, right? You have to get so many people involved in that process. And if they don't have the trust that indeed that they're going to get results from it, they're just not going to move. My biggest enemy is actually not my competitors. I love my competitors for doing education. My biggest enemy is them not taking action.
Wow. And what's the second part of the question? What's your average pricing per customer? So like a usual 20 people team is going to pay, per SDR.
My ACV right now is close to 10K.
Okay. Is that monthly?
No, 10K ACV, annual contract value.
Okay, 10K. Thank you so much for sharing. But that makes a lot of sense. It puts a lot of things into perspective, especially with the GTM motion that you mentioned. Now, you mentioned something about you doing crazy things on socials. Mm-hmm. I want to know a little bit more about that, because I know you mentioned that in another podcast that you like to spend almost 70% of your budgets on stuff like that, like generating top of the funnel noise. So what are those crazy things? And I'm eager to know what other people can learn and, kind of use in their own campaigns.
It's funny because for the past 2 years, I was the acting CMO, and I thought that I come from a technical background. I knew nothing about fully running a marketing team and like brand awareness and all those things. I mean, we did things right, but not to the level where our CAC was very effective on that part. And it was one of the most difficult jobs I've ever had, because you have to do so many things well, so many things. There's the orchestration around the account scoring, then there's all these playbooks that you have to play. And then there's the attention grabbing. And how do you grab attention? And the simple answer is that you have to be bold. You have to have the capacity to take big risks and just owning that risk. That's the short answer. I can get into the details, but it's a difficult process, and it's kind of like you have to dig into your worst fears to get there.
So let's hear about maybe a favorite campaign of yours, or an effort, or some kind of, like, let's say a playbook that you played that really worked well for you.
So before I'm going to give you some examples, I want to share like one brilliant, brave campaign that I think in our industry that got everybody talking, which is Artisan kind of putting these ads everywhere saying, do not hire human. And you'd think, well, that's completely stupid because it's going to get people hating on them because we're all humans and like we all want to not lose our jobs, etc. But it was like a super risky campaign that they did. They are willing to get the hate because now everybody talks about them and their brand awareness is so huge just from like taking that risk. And that to me is like I have huge respect for them, even though I know that they're promoting kind of the wrong things. It's like a bold risk. And then you had also Adam Robinson here on this podcast, and he's also taking a lot of big risks, and people disagree with him. They disagree with him. He polarizes people who think that he's great, or that he thinks that things are not great at all. That kind of polarization is a very tricky balance to navigate, and we're looking to do the same. I don't think that I have the same kind of courage as Adam Robinson to do those that's kind of polarization, but those are the how I look at it as well. So one example is when everybody was afraid about diversity of inclusion, saying, we have to cut because the government right now doesn't want us to talk about these things, like double down on it. Whatever is like the topic of the day that's gosh to talk about and polarizes people. Those are the kind of topics that I also approach. Going back to the office was kind of a super sensitive topic a while back, not right now.
Yeah.
From people working from home during COVID. So anything that's kind of like a painful subject that people have high emotion around, that's kind of what I pick.
Wow. Yeah, it does take courage because I think you get a few hits while you're trying to do something like that. And I'm sure you've experienced stuff like that. But yeah, I hear you. No, I think it's a fantastic idea and it's very smart. And I think I kind of really admire you for that. And it's paid off. Why not? You talk about predictable orchestration, that GTM isn't just one motion, one team, one funnel stage. Could you elaborate on that concept that you talk about a little bit more here?
So the way I think about it is that once you gather attention, so you got their attention, and let's say that you picked a few growth plays that kind of match where your ICP is. In our case, for instance, LinkedIn is like a big channel for us because salespeople are in there and marketers are in there curious what's going on. So I'm lucky that this channel is available to us. So once you know your levers for attention, you pick your growth, there's the behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is what takes 80% of the effort, really. It's how to orchestrate the right kind of touches for your target accounts. So once you understood who you're going after, in our case, we have about 10,000 accounts that are very precise for us right now, that are in our sweet spot, but they're segmented and we have like different tiers and like different segments for how we approach them. Then it's a team sport. It's not just the sales team. It's not just the marketing team or just the CS or just like Alina. We all work on these accounts and we make sure that there are as many touches as we can possibly have on the full buying group. Because yes, we might have one person that kind of gets involved in the process to buy. Maybe it's ops, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's sales. But unless there's consensus around them and they don't have some education ahead of time, it's going to be really difficult. So that kind of behind the scenes orchestrations for the touches is quite complex. And that's where I get excited about building agentic workflows around, because I have to do these things manually right now. And it's a lot of tape behind the scenes. There are million tools that I'm using right now to do that. And it's highly inefficient. I'm just going to give you an example. For instance, we have a strong partnership motion. So we have a lot of agencies that we work with and integration partners. And we're a lot stronger if we go to market together. An example of a partnership that we have that's public is with Gong. Gong goes after a similar ICP with us, but they're going after a different piece of the puzzle. Whenever they have a new customer, because of Crossbeam, so we use Crossbeam, we make sure that that account is nurtured. We make sure that they see advertising that say, hey, do you know that if you use Chili Piper and Gong, you can do this kind of improvements? And these are the kind of things that you can see as productivity for your team kind of increases. These are some improvement in conversion rates, et cetera, et cetera. And that's like one example of a nurture, but we have hundreds of partners. And all of these things can be done nicely, whether it's done through advertising or it can be done through both parallel email campaign as well from the account owner. You can also kind of sequence that with LinkedIn outreach if the account is big enough from myself.
Yeah.
A personalized message. So there are like so many pieces of the puzzle that go behind the scenes that that's the reason why I was telling you that I'm excited to build agentic workflows behind the scenes.
Yeah, and they can really solve these problems because I hear you. I mean, we've been working and looking at one where LinkedIn outreach can be combined with email automation. So anyone who doesn't open on LinkedIn, you automatically nurture that account in maybe clay tables or enrich and, go after them on email and other channels and maybe even run performance campaigns to target them where you expect them to be. So I hear you. I think it's brilliant. I mean, the way I can see why you've done so well in marketing because your mind is not just a bland marketer. You have a fantastic process and system driven approach, which possibly comes from your tech background and the way you've kind of, learned everything. So there's a process behind it and it's so beautiful to kind of look at. Now, I get this orchestration and it sounds so fantastic. I know some of these things that you promise to your clients, companies like Apollo have been able to increase their revenue by 300%. So when you look at such accounts and companies who get such fantastic results, what are the things that you see the companies who don't get such results are not doing right? So the mistakes that commonly companies make.
Oh my gosh, I see so many mistakes.
Maybe the top three.
So one of the thing that drives me nuts is I go talk to CMOs and CROs and they're in the same company and they can't agree with the CEO on what constitutes for qualified account. Like what somebody comes inbound, is it qualified or is it not qualified? Some of them still use BANT as a qualification criteria, which is a budget authority, etc. It makes absolutely no sense that in 2025 you use budget as a qualification criteria. It makes zero sense. People make budgets appear out of thin air if they really believe in your product. They make budgets. That's
I completely agree with you on this. This is great.
Drives me nuts. So the qualification criteria is like an Achilles heel for me. Whenever I see it's like, oh shit, this company is going to struggle. Whenever I see budget as a qualification, it's also a problem. Another thing that I did not expect at all, and I didn't realize that companies don't spend time on that, is just agreeing simple on the data dictionary. What's the buying group? Who are the ICP, the personas? What are the different stages of the funnel? When do we close opportunities? When do we reopen them? It's even simplicity around pricing, like agreeing on what the correct pricing structure. I just did not expect that it takes so much time for them to just agree on simple things. I didn't expect that at all.
Wow. So that's the number one issue that you see with them. I mean, any other
alignment, just like simple alignment between the teams. Like the CEO has one thought and the CRO has a different thought. The CMO has a different thought. The ops person has a different thought. Usually the ops is in the middle and kind of has to do therapy for the team. But it's so crazy that it's so difficult for people to collaborate. It's so crazy.
Yeah. I get it. You've helped some companies get to 4x of their conversion rate. So what are the tactics there that are the most effective?
So you brought in Apollo as an example. So Apollo has a PLG motion and some of the things that they do. So besides when they have somebody who wants to talk to sales, putting them in touch with sales immediately, they also do a lot of optimization around the free trial and the motions there for cross-sell and upsell. And those are type of things that we also help a lot with, because you have a free trial, then you have to make sure that you distribute the account to the right person that can reach out to them, and you have to have certain criteria in there. So for your what's called a PQL, like a product qualified lead, our platforms helps with that kind of distribution and the assignment. And there's a lot of complexity around there. It's like an enterprise account, and they're in US or they're in Dubai, etc. So there's all that condition. And once the account is distributed to the right account owner, you can do things in app that are super smart. So for instance, you can do a pop-up in there that says, hey, Kinner, I see that you're from this company that does outbound. We also have other companies in outbound, like example, and they're making the most of this feature, and you're not. Let me show you. Let's book a meeting and let me show you. And that's like a beautiful entry point for the salesperson to show you a particular feature, and then they can gather some intelligence about the company that could help them close the deal.
Wow, that's a super smart tactic there. No, fantastic. Now, I'm curious to know, what are the key metrics that you track to evaluate the health of your GTM motions? I'm sure you've changed them over time, but what are the key things you look at right now?
For us, from the beginning, it continues to be the North Star, the NRR. Are we managing to keep accounts and expand them? And then everything else is kind of secondary from that. Obviously, I look at how many cold accounts, how many touched accounts, how are they progressing funnel, what the first touch tell me, and what the different conversion points are at different stages of the funnel. And I constantly look at like reducing my sales cycles and how much time it takes from accounts to move from one stage to the other, and then all the improvements around our sales conversion rates, etc. So they're all part of the funnel, but NRR is our North Star metric. And I want to add one thing that we also pay a lot more attention to than probably most people. And I think that's even more important now that everybody's building things with AI and with agents. Very keen on keeping the last mile human. So even though I might have like a notification from Slack to reach out to a CEO on LinkedIn or to reach out to a CMO on LinkedIn, it's me who sends it. It's not an automated message. And the reason, and it's very difficult to scale, right? Because I'm only a person, and I was telling you before we started recording that my inbox on LinkedIn is just bananas, and like my email is just bananas. So it's like really difficult for me to keep myself the way I prefer to keep myself, which is human. Yet I believe that that's a very strong advantage because it creates trust. And in this age and in these times that we're living in, the trust is critical. And I was telling you at the beginning also that when our sales team gets on a call, if they don't have the trust of that buyer, they're not going to introduce them to the right person on the team. They're just not going to make the intros. They're not going to give them information that they need to proceed. You can do as much as you can by scraping their website. You can do a lot now to gather information about your account, but you will never know the internal politics. You just not know. And if you don't gather the trust of the person that you're speaking with, you're gone. You're not going to close the deal.
Yeah. And this makes a lot of sense coming from you because you've invested a lot of time on your personal brand. So my next question, and I want to just ask a few more questions. I mean, this one is really close to, a lot of people who ask this question quite often on our LinkedIn and other forums, is that personal brands. I think there is a wave for almost all founders to kind of focus a lot on it. And you've mentioned a lot about the motions and, how your entire orchestration also revolves around your personal brand. So if you could just highlight, when did you start looking at it, and what were the 2-3 biggest reasons that you kind of woke up to it, and why everybody should do it, connecting those reasons?
I was terrified by it. I was so terrified by it. I hated getting any attention. I hated the spotlight. I was very happy with my computer and just not talking to anyone. Yet I had this kind of big realization at some point, and it was the beginning of the war in Ukraine, that I'm doing myself a disservice by keeping quiet, because when I started speaking up just a little bit about the war in Ukraine, I managed to have the impact that I wanted. I managed to raise them $1 million for refugees from the moms at the borders. I managed to help
hundreds. This is great.
It was amazing to witness the kind of ripple effects, and we helped like all sorts of other things with the shelters, with the bombs, and it was a lot more than just like monetary impact. And that was only because I had the courage to go on, at that time, on Bloomberg TV and on other places. And the only reason that I had the courage was that because I really cared about that particular topic. And I said, well, if you really care about that particular topic and now you can have an impact, like why don't you try to get yourself out of your zone of comfort and try to see if you can have other ripple effects and other impact. And it doesn't have to be a business impact. You can just focus on the type of thing that you really care about. So then I started forcing myself to post. It was extremely difficult. It's still kind of weird for me to press the post button. I still have that kind of like, ugh, when I do, but it's become a lot easier. Like the more I practice, the easier it became. I do want to caution, I don't think that all the founders should post. I don't think that all the founders should post. I think they can always find an evangelist in their team that could be like the face of the company, especially if they have equity and they're like involved in the company. They can get everybody in the company to post. If it feels that their zone of genius is somewhere else, they can focus on other things and find somebody else in the company, because it's extremely difficult and draining at times. And if it doesn't bring joy, why put yourself through the nightmare of it?
Yeah, that's great clarity, and I think makes a lot of sense. I can see you possibly are doing a fantastic job as a mother too, because if you believe that everybody should focus on their, let's say, the point of joy, I'm sure that's what you're going to tell your kids to do. So that's the question around educational content, because I believe it's super powerful. Every company in product should try and educate their prospective customers, existing customers, evangelists, community, all of that, right? So I know that you guys operate a university and you have a lot of educational content. How do you see that's kind of an important piece to your top of the funnel conversions or, your evangelizing as well? How does it fit in?
I want to bring a couple of points before I answer that question. So I worked in education myself. So I worked at Pearson, and
yeah, you were head of mobility, right? I read that.
I was involved in really large contracts at Pearson where we would basically take all the printed books and turn them into digital curriculum for iPads. We had like a big tender, $1 billion tender in Brazil,
Wow.
Another $100 million tender in LA County to bring the curriculum on digital. And it was fascinating how hard it is to build things that can truly have an impact, that could truly kind of engage the students, get them excited about it. And it's just like a special kind of talent that some people have, like Khan, for instance, on Khan Academy, to explain things and keep people engaged and kind of create the right kind of experiences to help people learn. I believe that the industry is going to change a lot now that agentic workflows are here, because for instance, I saw my child kind of playing with Synthesia. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Synthesia is
I know, like synthetic models, voices, all of that.
There's a startup built on it where kids can learn fractions and can learn mathematics and complex, like how to build a rocket and things like that. It's an app it's called Synthesia on iPad.
Oh, Synthesis. It's called synthesis.io or something. I've seen this one.
Yeah.
I've seen this one. Yes, I know.
He played about a year and a half ago, and he was like 4.5, and I was seeing him interacting with it and learning fractions. I'm 4.5, and he now gets the concept really well. Like, he understands like 30%, 50%, 70% with super large numbers. He loves mathematics because of it now. And they were using agentic AI from the beginning, but it was Elon Musk who put like a lot of money behind the scenes to have these brilliant educators kind of create the curriculum. How I see our university is fine. Like, we kind of teach how to use our product, etc. But it's not that level of brilliance by far. I'm actually my worst inner critic, and I think that everything that I do is 0 out of 10. But that's like my the problem that I have to work with my therapist. So I think that to come back to this education topic, I think that the way like the market is going to evolve and how buyers are going to also kind of get educated is going to be with like a very short attention span. It's going to have to be a super engaging like TikTok or whatever, and it's going to be highly interactive where you're part of the doing, because that's how we all learn, is by doing, not by listening to an hour lecture where we space out. It's a very exciting space for AI. It's a very exciting space for AI.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for kind of highlighting that. Education's like super close to my heart as well. Before I started the product company, I used to consult with universities in the UK, in France. We got some of the top design schools into Asia. We help set up educational institutions for Middle Eastern entities in India and, multiple countries. So like we'd worked a long time. So this is a very interesting topic that's close to my heart because I believe AI will change everything. The whole concept of how the teacher held the knowledge, because we had to go to a teacher, the generation we come from, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had to have a great teacher because they knew they would point you in the right direction. But AI changes everything. And we don't know where it's all going to lead. So I think interesting world that we live in. I think there could be, some of these are things that almost everybody struggles with. So I think you've got all these principles right at the right place. Like I said, I knew that it was going to be a learning experience talking to you. But thank you so much. I think I've covered the length and breadth of what I kind of wanted to learn, and you've been so candid sharing it all. I think people who are watching this episode are going to love it because there's so many golden nuggets of information, hacks that you've shared. Thank you so much for your time, Alina. It's been such a pleasure and an honor, truly.
Thank you, Kenner, for having me. Thank you for doing this work.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. I hope we get to connect in the future as well.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.